In November of 2022, Moscow, Idaho was exactly what a college town should be: quiet, cold, and wrapped in an early winter snow. Four University of Idaho students, Kaylee, Madison, Xana, and Ethan, had spent a totally normal weekend out with friends before heading back to their off-campus home on King Road to sleep. But somewhere in the dark, that normal weekend ended. By sunrise, four young people were dead, and whoever did it had slipped away without waking the rest of the house. What terrified the community almost as much as the violence itself was the absolute void left behind. The house was a crime scene, but obvious clues pointing to a specific killer were completely missing. As weeks ticked by without a named suspect, the pressure on local law enforcement compounded. National media descended on the town, demanding answers from a police department that had very few to give. To start, investigators had only a remarkably tight window. Based on phone data and witness accounts, they knew the crime occurred within a silent 25-minute block, right between 4 and 4:25 a.m. That tight parameter gave them their first real lead. By pulling neighborhood security camera footage from exactly that time frame, police spotted a car circling the street near the house. They identified the vehicle as a white Hyundai Elantra. At that moment, it was the only tangible thing investigators had to hunt for. But knowing the make and model of a car creates a massive net. There are thousands of white Hyundai Elantras on American roads, and a car doesn't give you a name, a face, or a motive. A physical description that broad is virtually useless on its own. To tie a mass-produced vehicle to a specific human being, investigators needed something much, much smaller. The search moved from the chaotic streets of Moscow to the highly controlled, sterile environment of the forensic lab. At the scene, detectives had collected a leather knife sheath left behind on one of the victim's beds. When forensic scientists analyzed that sheath, they found a single source of male DNA located directly on the metal button snap. Forensic teams isolated a few stray cells transferred through a split-second touch, a microscopic biological trace the intruder likely never even realized he left behind. But when police ran that genetic sequence through standard law enforcement databases, the system came back blank. The suspect had no prior criminal record to match against. Having a killer's complete biological code in a test tube means nothing if there is no existing file to compare it to. To bypass that dead end, investigators turned to genetic genealogy, a technique where detectives use commercial ancestry websites to hunt for familial DNA. This diagram shows how it works. Instead of searching for a direct match in a criminal database, forensic teams upload the anonymous crime scene DNA to public platforms, looking for any distant living relatives who might share a fraction of that genetic code. Once they find those distant cousins, investigators have to do the manual labor. They build massive family trees backward to find a common ancestor, and then trace every branch forward to identify all possible modern descendants. That creates a list of thousands of people. To filter it down, investigators apply demographic data, eliminating individuals until they are left only with males of a specific age range. Here is where the funnel closes. Police take that tiny cluster of related males and cross-reference it with motor vehicle records, checking to see if any of those men also happen to drive a white Hyundai Elantra. That exact overlap pointed directly to a 28-year-old PhD student named Brian Koberger. By pairing a microscopic biological mistake with macro-level public records, investigators mathematically filtered millions of potential citizens down to one individual. Armed with that identity, police tracked Koberger's movements across the country, following his white Elantra all the way to Pennsylvania, where they made the arrest. For the first time, the public saw the face of the man accused of slipping into 1122 King Road. The capture brought a massive wave of relief to a community that had spent weeks living in terror, holding vigils and waiting for answers. The physical manhunt was over, but closing the investigative funnel only triggered the beginning of a highly complex legal fight. Koberger's defense team immediately took aim at the science. They are actively contesting the idea that a single trace sample of DNA and the genetic genealogy used to trace it constitutes undeniable proof of guilt. This skepticism is setting the stage for a massive courtroom battle over privacy rights, the reliability of commercial ancestry databases, and the strict limits of modern forensic technology. Yet, while lawyers dissect the methodology and debate the evidence, 4 families are left dealing with a permanent loss that no verdict can undo. While the investigation used technology to bridge the gap between a car on camera and a man in a courtroom, that single microscopic thread is now bearing the weight of the entire case.